So I know Wall Street very well, but I also know tech and Bitcoin very well. And I think both of these guys underestimated the impact that this ETF would have. And I still think we underestimate it, right? So I think the Bitcoiners felt like, well, it's not your keys. It's these guys are going to just take your Bitcoin. It's not real Bitcoin. You shouldn't. It's not going to amount to anything. It's not really interesting. And in fact, Lynn Alden and I got in a little online fight because she said it's like the least interesting thing that's happening this year. I'm like, Lynn, I'm sorry, you're completely wrong. It's the most interesting. It's the most important and the most interesting thing that's happening.
Bitcoin's immense growth potential and its evolving role in reshaping the financial landscape are being fueled by increased adoption, technological innovation, and strategic investment. Its capacity to disrupt existing processes and create new opportunities has garnered significant interest. For expert insights, we turn to Fred Krueger, a seasoned software entrepreneur and advocate for Bitcoin. Krueger has expressed a growing belief in Bitcoin's future, particularly driven by the introduction of Bitcoin ETF. He discusses Bitcoin's ability to outperform traditional assets, the challenges of diversification, skepticism surrounding crypto exchanges, and the importance of understanding both Bitcoin and Wall Street. Since 2019, his confidence in Bitcoin has steadily increased, largely due to the Bitcoin Exchange Traded Fund, which addresses adoption concerns by enabling purchases through traditional brokerage accounts, thus bypassing digital wallets and exchanges. Krueger also pointed out that many investors have lost trust in platforms like Coinbase and Binance, preferring established institutions instead. He questioned Larry Fink's understanding of Bitcoin, suggesting that Fink sees it merely as an introduction to tokenization, revealing a pattern of misconceptions. To delve deeper into Fred Krueger's insights on Bitcoin's potential, let's explore his thoughts further. Before we continue with the rest of the video, do check out daily 5-minute crypto newsletter with all the latest crypto and Bitcoin news. It's a fantastic analysis of on-chain crypto data and breakdowns, and the best part is it's absolutely free. They'll cover expert predictions, breakdowns of on-chain crypto data, and any breaking news you need to know, all in a nutshell. Click the first link in the description and enter your email to join over 50,000 others in becoming a better crypto investor right now.
I would say starting in 2019, I really believed Bitcoin was it, but that I got more and more convinced from 20 to now, really, about that. And sort of my conviction level just keeps on going up. It never goes down, right? One of the things that really convinced me was this ETF, right? Because when I saw the ETF, I realized that we finally had solved the use problem, right? Because we have all these people who wanted to buy Bitcoin before, but they just couldn't deal with wallets and storage. And they also didn't want to deal with exchanges like Coinbase or Binance. A lot of people that I know, they simply are not going to trust Coinbase with their money. They don't really want to wire $1 million to Coinbase. It's just not something they're going to do. They might wire $100 or $1,000 to Coinbase and play around. But, they view that their real money is going to be in, Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley or Merrill Lynch. And, for them to kind of go the extra step to, I'm going to move this money to this very untrusted startup-y type thing called Coinbase, it's too big of a jump for them, right? And so when I saw this ETF, I'm like, oh my God. So this is going to totally solve it, all right? This will solve it because all of a sudden, I'm not saying they will want to buy it, but at least they can buy it, right? At least there's a way now that they can go to their regular brokerage account and they can buy it, So I know Wall Street very well, but I also know tech and Bitcoin very well. And I think both of these guys underestimated the impact that this ETF would have. And I still think we underestimate it, right? So I think the Bitcoiners felt like, well, it's not your keys. It's these guys are going to just take your Bitcoin. It's not real Bitcoin. You shouldn't. It's not going to amount to anything. It's not really interesting. And in fact, Lynn Alden and I got in a little online fight because she said it's like the least interesting thing that's happening this year. I'm like, Lynn, I'm sorry, you're completely wrong. It's the most interesting. It's the most important and the most interesting thing that's happening. So that was from the Bitcoiners' perspective, and then from the the finance perspective, it was sort of even the most bullish of the prognosticators, people like Eric Balchunas of Bloomberg, were like, well, I think high end we could see $15 billion worth of inflows. That would be like an amazing result. Well, we've vastly exceeded that, right? And so I think that they, even till now, they still don't understand what they've got with this ETF. And I don't think Larry Fink understands what he's got. He's sort of thinking, well, I'll do Bitcoin and then I'll do tokenization next. That'll be really big. So I don't think they understand Bitcoin fundamentally. And I think you really have to have both angles to understand it. And I'm just, that intersection of that Venn diagram with, people who understand Bitcoin and people who understand Wall Street is very, very narrow. So these don't intersect much. The problem I think a lot of young Bitcoiners make and is if you don't have to sell your Bitcoin, if your Bitcoin's in, let's say you're working and you've got some money coming in, and you could be 100% of what you have as investable capital in Bitcoin, right? The problem is a lot of young Bitcoiners, they go in, they are 100% in Bitcoin. Well, then they get in a car accident. Well, the problem is they get in the car accident in March of 2018. And the problem is now they have to sell their Bitcoin at the absolute worst time, right? And so you don't want to be in that situation. You don't want to be in a situation where you're forced to sell at the absolute worst time, right? And, there's all this math and theory and stuff. And it sort of says you need to have some buffer.
Fred Krueger highlighted Bitcoin's remarkable performance, surpassing that of gold and other currencies. Power law analysis illustrates Bitcoin's rapid growth, with a power law factor of 5.7 compared to money and 4.9 versus gold. Despite gold's reputation as a safe haven asset, its performance during certain market downturns has often fallen short, not consistently providing the expected stability or gains, which calls into question its reliability as a safeguard. In contrast, Bitcoin's massive addressable market, encompassing global money and fixed income, continues to fuel its growth potential. Krueger pointed out that Bitcoin holds a modest market share of about $1 trillion in a global asset landscape valued at approximately $900 trillion, underscoring the room for significant growth. He urged for a more concentrated focus on Bitcoin investment, especially given the smaller markets and uncertain outlooks of competing cryptocurrencies. To explore more of Fred Krueger's insights on Bitcoin's future, let's return to the interview for additional key highlights.
There's a lot of math behind the power law of Bitcoin versus gold. And Bitcoin is pretty much outperforming gold and in the same way that it is outperforming fiat. The power law versus fiat is 5.7 power. The power law versus gold is 4.9 power. Gold's not that much of a hedge, really. You think it is. You think you're diverse. I think one of the problems that everybody has is this over belief in diversification. Bitcoin versus gold, that's one. Not a lot of people who are Bitcoiners do tend to diversify into gold. I think that's probably a good thing. It's more gold people who tend to go into Bitcoin, right? So I bought my gold obviously way before Bitcoin was invented. Right. But, other people who are, gold bugs like Larry Lepard, actually have discovered Bitcoin and, they've sort of moved 50-50 or close to it, So other ones, obviously like Peter Schiff, just have resisted, they've resisted. Yeah. But I think the other thing is, there's this belief that you need to diversify in crypto. So, there's a lot of people who believe that, well, I can't put all my eggs on Bitcoin. I have to put I have to go 50-50 ETH in Bitcoin. And I think it's a huge mistake, but not a terrible mistake, because even if you have 50% Bitcoin, you're going to do fine, but it's suboptimal. I don't think I don't think you're getting anything by diversifying into Ethereum or Solana or any of these other coins. I honestly think it's a negative. You're wasting your time, and you're in the end you're going to have suboptimal returns, in my opinion. I'm not sort of massively against these things, but I just think you're going to underperform Bitcoin because ultimately the reason I say that, let's just take the very long term, right? So what is Bitcoin really? The addressable market for Bitcoin is money, right? It's money and fixed income. So it's all of bonds, it's all of money, M2 in the US, the same in Europe, the same in China, everywhere else, right? There is, $100 trillion plus $200 trillion worth of bonds and M2, right? 200 trillion. So we're at a couple percent of that right now. If you look at world assets, including real estate and everything else, there's like 900 trillion. So, Bitcoin's 1 trillion. So it's just a tiny part of its addressable market, right? Now, if you look at the addressable market for things like Solana, Ethereum, you name it, whatever new one comes, and there will be new ones every month. There's going to be a new layer one of some kind. We have no idea who's going to win this fight. It keeps on changing, is it Ethereum? Is it Ethereum layer twos? Is it Solana? Is it SUI? Is it Apta? I don't know, right? But all I know is that market is a much smaller market than the market for world money. That's a market for, a distributed database layer for smart money.
Tether's USDT stablecoin has hit a significant milestone, reaching a $20 billion market cap, a sign of growing investor interest in stable assets as a bridge between fiat currencies and digital asset. This increase suggests investors may be stockpiling stablecoins like USDT in anticipation of crypto investments, potentially setting the stage for the next Bitcoin rally. Fred Krueger has observed a rising distrust in crypto exchanges, with investors favoring stable assets for liquidity and established institutions for security. October has historically been a favorable month for Bitcoin, with an average gain of 21%, and following a similar pattern in 2020 when Bitcoin surged 27% in October and 42% in November. Tether's recent supply increase coincides with Bitcoin's rebound, with $1.3 billion USDT issued in just 5 days last August, marking a 21% price rise for Bitcoin. This strategic shift in stablecoin holdings suggests a strong investor sentiment, as recent data shows substantial USDT transactions flowing into major exchanges like Binance and Kraken, supporting a potential Bitcoin rally. Bitcoin ETFs have also seen rapid inflows, exceeding $20 billion in just 10 months, surpassing gold ETFs' historical growth. Krueger views this ETF growth as a sign of Bitcoin's growing legitimacy in mainstream finance. Combined with Tether's expanding supply and rising ETF inflows, these factors could help Bitcoin push past key resistance levels, setting up for another rally. As we wrap up, what do you think is the most significant factor driving Bitcoin's adoption and investment potential? Share your thoughts below. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.